Hello. Now I go by the name Senryu. So I was asked to create some 3D modeling techniques videos and a process to show how I create some of these things you see. In this case, there's something that I have to showcase because I'm essentially obligated to showcase that rendering. There's people that are actually believing that I haven't really created this. This thing here you see? That's something I didn't really take account of. I did create it, no doubt about that. It's just that people just want to know the process of it so they can actually believe in it or believe that there's a guy actually creating this to begin with. I'll make this bigger picture. See how it all looks like that? I designed that on my own purpose and design flows and correlative thinking to create something with that aesthetic in that sense. So we're gonna redo this, and I'm gonna show you how I can create it from this space to essentially this in that sense. So we're gonna put this on the side, put it over here for you guys to see, just in case. So this is will be the reference, and I'll show you the video process of me doing it. I mean, I can't blame people for not really believing on the render itself when there's no process, because you need to know the process to actually truly believe that it's being created like that. It gives more of that affirmation and assurance. So let's begin. All right, I'm gonna go here, and I'm gonna put this here, and I'm gonna go here. There we go. Go here as well. Actually, I'm gonna go here, and I'm gonna switch it up here as well. All right, so I'm gonna switch my link here as well. All right, let's begin. So when you see this in the end, right, you're essentially seeing what I'm doing. So we're gonna just like go here. This is the cube, right? So I'm gonna press 1, and this is, suppose I can press 3. 1 is point, 2 is edge, 3 is, or 1 is vertices, 2 is edge, 3 is faces. I'm gonna click on these two. I'm gonna Control E. This has to be switched into along normals, so that way it doesn't end up getting invisualized or separated in the normal mapping, which is essentially the map of the whole mesh itself or the design. See, I'm creating it. This is going to be the hilt of the blade itself. Here, I'm going to click here, 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 and here. Okay, that should be enough. So now I'm going to click on this. I'm going to click on each edge here as well. Now, Control E is extrude, so you add more parts and more forms into it. Control B, however, is beveling. Beveling is the art of smoothing an object through functional patterns and functional instructions to create the things from in that sense. It's essentially a function that allows you to make the thing much more smooth in that sense. You see? Now we made it kind of smooth, so we can actually create more into it. Every keystone or key component and key function does something with some of the mathematics like complications and like calculations. The extrude just increases, so it's kind of like adding. And beveling is just the smoothing of a very sharp object. It's kind of like sharpening a pencil, or in some cases, making it more smooth as you slant the edges in that sense. That's what it looks like here. So that's one way to do that. So we're going to go back to Object, Mesh, and then we're going to go into Torus. So Torus, actually, just in case, I'm going to press W, I'll press it over here. Add mesh and torus. See, there's actually a setting, actually you can't see it because it's blocked, but here. There's a setting here you can look at, and that's add torus. And in there, you see some functions you can use. These are the control systems you can use to essentially increase details or decrease details depending on what you want. In this case, we're trying to copy what I did originally on like the designs here as well. Not all those things there. So we need lesser segments for this to work. So you just press that, and then you slowly just create it, and you decrease the details as well. There we go. Now we have something we can use, and check this out. Now we've got the pieces that can create the garments or the guard for the hilt itself. First, we're going to use a technique called Alt-C, and Alt-C is loop cutting. Loop cutting is essentially the surgery of the mesh, but you're adding more points to it. You're adding more details, and more distinctions of the details when you apply into it. So when you apply this here, you press here as well, and then that will allow you to essentially do this. And I'm going to Control E, same principle. Now I can do this now. So just in case, I'm going to do this here. Now I got an easy way to do this. Right now I'm on X-ray mode, and X-ray mode gives you more of that skill to actually extrude it and create a distinct flow into it. So I'm looking at my mesh here, and I'm starting to see that there is essentially details I forgot. So yeah, so now here I'm going to press this, I'm going to press this, right? And I'm going to do Control E. Actually no, it's Control E here, Control E. You see how it's like slowly adding details? That's like how you extrude. Extruding is just adding more mesh leverage, more mileage to what you create in that sense. So do this here and there. And then I'm going to do this here, 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 and here. So click on this and click on that as well. Click on this. And 1, 2 here. Press R, and that will allow you to create details depending on what you do. Just like that. And then now, since we have this right, I'm going to look into what I'm seeing here, and I'm going to essentially add in, yeah, so we're going to do this here just like that, and we click on this, and slowly you can essentially add in the details depending on what you want. See, now I'm actually doing the exact same thing as what's being shown here. Only this time I'm just adding a different taste and flavor into it. Just like that. And then here, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. And then I'm going to extrude this. Just like, actually not that individual, it's just by normals. Wait, there's something else I forgot. Oh. Yeah, so something like this. Yeah, like that. And then, yeah, just like this. And I do like this here as well. Because you look in here closely, there's actually an indent as well. That's what I'm trying to add, but this is a little bit more of a complex model. I have to like see every single thing I'm creating. But what I could tell is I added some really distinct details when I was doing this in the end. So this won't really be a complete this won't be like a complete copy of it, but it'll be very similar to it, which is a good sign. So just like that, and then I'm going to do something here, and I'm going to click on this and click on this. Press R to increase the details, just like that. And I'm going to click on these two here, press R, and then I'm just going to slowly change the details like that. Alright, and since I have the thing here, I can now look over here, and I can essentially just like detailed works just like that. So yeah, so I'm going to look at this. That part there, you see that part that you see here? That is one of my mistakes when I was creating this mesh in the first place. I was making a very distinct problem with it, so I have to realize myself now in this current age, this created 2022 or 3 years ago or 4 years, that when I was creating this I was just exploring that practice and that skill. Now I have a better principle of developing things, so it's better to create things that are not so separate meshes. You do that, it may work as a modular piece, but to make something a little more advanced, you're essentially having to think about how will I see this, or how will I actually develop this with a better mindset. Rather than seeing it as Legos, you see it as an engineering piece in that sense. You see, now I'm just extruding, but I'm not forcing myself to play a very basic way of doing things, a very beginner's way of creating meshes. You see here? Now I'm going to create this, and I'm going to Control E. Actually, that's the normals here. See, like that, you see? And I'm gonna press W or press R, and I'm gonna slowly increase that. And then I'm gonna press this, and then I'm going to do another one here as well. There we go. Click on that as well, just like that. And slowly you'll be able to see what I'm talking about. So this is essentially the other blade in a different form. So now I'm going to do what I'm trying to connect, and then that's going to allow me to do this. Look closely. So I'm about to create the creases that's going to allow this blade to look kind of different. You see how it's now all in one piece? You look on the other place here, right, on the wireframe. This is not a complete one thing. Neither is this. These are all like pieces that I added into it. What you just saw here, in a sense, is essentially something different. It's essentially me developing this piece, just with more of that practice of just like developing that design without doing too much of it. As in, I'm not trying to over complicate it or over focus or just like overthink about it. You just have to like see things in a very simple and educated way. When you see these things, you're now allowing yourself to see the element of designing without taking too much from it, in a sense. Now this now seems to make more sense now, but that's not really the end of it. Now we're going to use this thing here, right? Press E to rotate on the, let's just say the Y-axis, and then I'm going to do this. Now you see this, so I'm going to do this here, and I'm going to press this here. Press R to scale, and show C and V, and then I'm going to essentially create multiple forms of this, just like that, just like that, and then I'm going to do C and V. Press E to rotate on the blue thing, which might be the blue axis, and then see that. Now I just move it like this, and just move it like this as well, like this as well too. This as well too. See me here as well. Here as well too. Alright, cool. Technically we did it, and it's essentially like that. Now to look at this thing here in that sense, right? And now when I'm creating this, I'm essentially going to do the same thing, only this time I'm smart. I can just copy these like that, rotate them, and then just like measure it and just like technically fix it until it actually represents what I'm looking at. There, just like that. Just like this here. And I'm going to look at this. Just like that, just like that, just like that, just like that. I'm going to just press E. And your hairline just like that. Just like that as well. It's not perfect, but this will do for now. So afterwards we can actually finesse it and actually fix it up depending what we do. So put that like this, press W like that. Just like that. Alright, cool. Press here as well. And okay. Oh, you see that? That's not supposed to happen. Yeah, I was creating this, right, and I accidentally made this a little bit too big, so what I'm going to do now is that I'm going to click on this and press R like that, and press here as well, press here too, and here as well, and then I'm going to click on this, and I'm just make it smaller. And I kick here as well. Here, and then I'm going to click on this here 2. Cool. Now for the next stage. So you see how I did this with some like intricate designing? You see here, in that sense, there's actually some sculpted parts here as well. So what I'm gonna do is that I'm gonna try and fix all this up and add one, like maybe some spheres too. See, I created spheres here as well. That's me also adding in some new designs. When you look at this design here, I made the spheres kind of big in that sense to imply defense or like a style in that sense. In other words, it looks kind of cool because it's not trying to be overcomplicated to what it is. So I'm going to open this up. I'm going to put this one actually. Object. So I think I did this wrong. So I'm going to go object, add mesh UV sphere. There we go. And then I'm going to click on this. I'm going to click on this as well. And then I'm going to do Control R. I'm going to scale like that. Just like that. And then Control C and V. Let's scale here as well. So when I'm doing this, I'm essentially planning it out. So I'm looking at both of them and I actually realized something. I'm going to put them as like that, and I'm going to C and V, Control R. And Control R means you slim down the mesh or you make it smaller to imply your design. So this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to push Control R here, just like that. And I'm going to C and V, just like that. Control C and V, just like that. And then check this out. I'm going to do Control C and V like that. Put it over there to save time. And then I'm going to do Control C and V. And just click on there as well. And there. Now I have something kind of similar. Only problem is this part here is a little bit too actually, I want to save this as alright, that's it. So technically this here is essentially like a little bit too yeah, it's a little bit too skinny. This is what's supposed to look like in that sense. Which means now I have to actually fix these ones as well. You see how I'm having to trace these back in that sense? And I'm going to just click on this, press R, and then that's going to make it a little bit bigger, so I'm going to make it smaller, like this, like that. There we go. And we're going to, alright, everything's like that, set up right. And so now it's time for me to do this. And click on this, I'm going to press edit, and I'm going to I see. So in this case, I'm going to have to like go into the mesh again and actually change this. But for now, it's better if I were to do this first. And then I can actually, I want to test something here. I want to see if it moves downwards. See what's going on? So push it downwards more, and it looks like that. So here's what I can do. I can create the thing here as well, and I can create it here towards this as well too. And I enter that, and then now we have a face we can use now, you see? So now we can use this, and then we can press I, and that creates something like insert faces. So what I did is that I selected all the faces and I press I. I allows you to insert faces just like that. And then slowly you'll turn into learning the ways to use this. So I'm going to do this here like that, and I'm going to press Control E. And it extrudes on the normals like that. You see how there's a problem here that just happened? It's because the mesh itself, there was a distinction problem with it. So to be a little bit smart, we can just do this like that. Just like how the blade looks like that, we have to essentially extrude this. Just like that. And then I'm going to do the same thing as I did before. And I'm going to press this here as well. And I'm going to click on this. Here, just like that. And I'm going to do this, Control E. Control E like that. Here as well. Click on that. Here we go. And remember, this dirty mod I'm creating, it's not supposed to be a full, like, copy of it, but it's supposed to resemble it in a way where I can explain what I'm talking about. I'll do the same colors as before, so this should be pretty interesting. So I'll do this here, and I'm going to click on that as well. Press I, and then I'll press R here as well. And then I'm going to press Control E, and then there. You see how the blade looks like that now? It looks like that because I'm actually taking time to create what I'm trying to create. And now I'm going to essentially go here, and I'm going to put vertices here as well. And I'm going to click on this and click on that as well. There we go. Click on there as well too. And here as well. And then I'm going to click on this. There as well. Just like that. Now I have the thing here as well. It's not really an exact copy because I'm not really intending this to be an exact copy, but I'm just showing the basic process and the similar process that I would use and that I did use to create the blade here as what it is in that sense. So now you know. So we're going to look at this here, and getting that there's a problem. Alright, now I do see it. Yeah, that part there needs to be, that part needs to have some points there. Which means I do this here, that there. Cool. So now we're going to do this here as well. And there, press W. Just like that. Just like that. Just like that. And now we have our blade that looks kind of good in that sense too, because we took the time to essentially clean it up in that sense, which is a good thing too. And now we're just slowly carving it, not by sculpting it, but by just pushing the vertices back where it belongs. There we go. This is a better version of the Onyx blade. It looks much more clean, it's not sculpted, and more importantly, we can do more things with this in the end. So check this out. Now I want to go here. I'm going to go here and here. I'm going to do Control C and V. Press W. And then press this. I'm going to delete this. And I'm going to essentially just click on this like that. Look how the blade looks like that, which probably means it's around close to here and close to here. Not the same, but it's very similar. Might be a better version, a revamped version of what I'm designing overall. So cool. So you do this like that, and you join this, and then you click on this, you click on the modifiers. These are your selection of things you can use to essentially modify your mesh. Considering how Blender has a new system for nodes, you can do so much with this in the end. But that's not really meant for today's lesson. For today's lesson, I'm teaching you guys how to actually modify things using the objects that you see. So difference, so if I use this right, then the mesh that comes from here. So yeah, just comes here, and I just do exact, I apply, and look, check this out. Ooh, it creates the piece like that, and it's all clean in that sense too. There we go. And yeah. But you see, I made a mistake, and that mistake is I made it to a point where I just added it to, it's not really stable, so it looks like it's gonna break. So you change those like settings or measurements so it doesn't end up breaking too quickly. So now I'm gonna click on the object, then a generate using a boolean. Boolean, this is how you add something using multiple meshes, or you cut something off using multiple meshes. It's kind of like cookie cutting in that sense, or you're play doing it by adding more things and meshing it up into it in that sense. Alright, so now you see that, right? So same thing, you just have to click on this thing, click on that, and you just press apply, and this will give you that thing like that as well. So I think that's good for now. Our next step is to essentially UV map this in the end. So I want to separate these into, like, let's just say 2 parts. That's like usually what's supposed to happen for this kind of mesh. This is a very basic way of doing things. But when you do it, when you separate each mesh part or mesh group, you can make that into multiple like sets of like pieces to texture later on. Before that, you have to texture it via UV map. Think of UV maps as origami. Because origami, originally, it's not really that one piece of paper you see. It's essentially opened out into like multiple things. Like a cube transforms into like a spread out layer of things. But when you combine it all back together and combine it in a 3D shape, that combines that into what it is. Okay, so these are connected, which means these things have to be connected as well. So that's part of the mesh itself. Cool. So there's two parts here. So I'm gonna show you the first step into doing this. I'm gonna edit, and I'm gonna show you a distinct way of actually UV mapping this. Before you do this in the end, you actually have to teach yourself on how to essentially separate your parts by seams in the end. Mark seam. You see how I'm doing it? Just like that. And then see how I'm going inside this here? This very confusing alien-like UV mapping, alien or outer space thing. When you get used to it, you're able to actually make your own stuff, some more of that sophistication. And within that, you're able to develop distinct things without you even realizing it. Alright. There we go. Now I want to mark seam. So mark seam here. This also applies to this one as well. You apply it here as well, you can actually do more things with this. Okay, but in this case, it did something like this here. So it's better to clean this up, and we're going to take this one off. So it does that. And we'll clean it up like here as well. Clean it up here. This one too. We'll clean it up here as well. Here as well. I'll disconnect that out. You see how I'm like separating each part as like some kind of piece that you need to take off. That's how you actually do it. So click on this. Here like that. Take that out. Do this here, 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 here. And then I'm going to mark seam. So this is a very basic practice and a very basic understanding of what I'm talking about. So let's test it out. So we're going into UV editing, and now we're in the UV editing sphere. We control A all of this, right? and then we have to like UV unwrap it. I think it's all joined, right? Yeah, it is. We're just going to Control A, and then unwrap and angle based. Now does this. You see that? You see how like it separates the mesh, but it actually does some things pretty well. But that's not really our aim for today. But that's just a way that you can do things with this like kind of mesh. If you try and do this in that sense, you have to essentially separate each and every part in a way where it does make sense. So I'm going to go to edit again, and I'm going to do this again. Click on this here, click on that again. You see how I'm doing it? So I'm going to press mark seam, press this again, press this again. And on mark seam again. Just like that, just like that. Mark seam. Cool. So just like that. Just like that. You see how I'm doing it? I'm just like shifting and pressing it one step at a time. Alright. Alright, see I gotta clean it up also so I can actually see this. Alright, so now I'm gonna go on X-ray mode to see if I actually did it. So you see I didn't do it correctly because there's these two parts here. So I gotta take away these two parts. So alright, it doesn't make sense if I didn't do these two parts too. There we go. And mark seam. Just like that, actually, one last thing. Mark seam. Alright, cool. And mark seam here as well. Alright, cool. So now I'm going to UV, unwrap, angle form. And now it actually separates the mesh into these kinds of parts. You see how it separates it like that? That's a good sign because now you can actually texture it and see what's going on with the mesh itself. So, if I ever were to guess, we could do more of this in the end too. I'm doing more of this, more of this, more of this. Mark seam, and mark seam. Yeah, mark seam here too. Yeah, so actually we can do here as well. Mark seam, Control A, same thing, and now it changes into that. So now both sides actually seem very modular, but seems very disconnected and separated in a good way. So remember, this is how you actually do things while the smart UV project way. However, the easier way to do this is to simply press UV unwrap in UV Smart Project. That will turn it into what is called this. And this one seems much more, it seems much more like automatic, but it seems way, very clean. So you can actually use this to texture what you want to texture. But for this case, I want to show this style of it because this seems to be much more easier to texture on like other UV projection sites, you know, like Substance Painter or like texturing softwares. Alright, we did this, right? Now our next step is to UV map or unwrap this part. So I'm going to put this back here. Just like that. And then we can press this, press edit, Control A, and UV unwrap. For this case, we don't really need to do too much of this. We all know it's all the same like that. So press R, and boom, we already textured our stuffs already in that sense. So just like that. And then now I'm going to click on this. Now press this, press object, and we're going to press edit. And now we have all of this you can essentially use. So I'm going to do this since we're going to save space for our UV mapping. We'll place this over here, just like that. I'm going to put that UV map on the top on here as well. This thing that you're seeing here in that sense, that is essentially going to be the canvas we're going to use for Substance Painter. This will be used with two styles of paint canvases, the 3D form canvas and the texturing canvas, which is this UV map, which is just the painting form of it. Now you know, so we're going to save this and actually save this in here. I'm going to call this Azure Blade. Yep, put that there, put that there, save another file. Alright, cool. So since we unwrap this, all we have to do now is essentially press this, and then we're going to press export. So the best thing to do first is to do it as an OBJ because it has more detail and more functionalities when using it. And we're going to click on object groups. And we're going to do Azure Blend. So this is going to copy that and put it on D. Cool. Our next step is to go into the Substance style painter style called Adobe Substance 3D Painter. I have the 2024 version and the 2018 version, so I have a versatile skill when doing this. So I'm going to press on this, and then I'm going to turn on things soon enough. So now you're going to start seeing how I'm going to start painting these things again, because I use Substance just like any painting software or just painting in general. The exception is that when you use this kind of program, you're essentially in the 3D space. You're not essentially on the 2D space when you're doing this. So recent files, comes in, press new. Actually, I've got to open that window. I'm going to press properties and click on. There we go. This is going to be a 4K image, and this is going to be, yeah, that's it. And I'll do this here. Select my file, and there you go. Open. You see? And this is what I did, and that's what it looks like now because of it. So, okay, we can use this, and now we're going to essentially texture this. That's the back, and it's the front. You see how it all looks like what it is, depending. So, yeah, we can do this here, and now I'm going to get the colors that I need. You see on the right side image, the drawing I'm showing you here, it's all supposed to be blue, right? So we can use blue in this case, but we can use something more of a darker blue and like indigo for this set piece. For this case, we're going to switch the colors up because I'm going to test myself and I'm going to ask what you guys know when it comes to terms. So in this case, I'm going to use a color, and you see all of this? This is actually kind of like a swatching place where you can actually use all kinds of colors. Think of this in Photoshop as like your swatches for your color palette. In terms of like maybe a painting, you have to create different colors to create the colors on the canvas and paint on that. Same thing, just way more advanced. So we're gonna go here and we're gonna try and look for this. The swatch we're gonna use in this case might be Steel Gun. Yeah, Steel Gun Matte. And I'm gonna make this blade kind of cool. So I'm gonna use this, and I'm gonna switch to metal. Here, I'm gonna right click, and it doesn't show, but actually I can show it here. You guys might need to understand this, so I'm gonna click on this, and I'm gonna show. No, it doesn't show. Automatic when it's turning up. Bit. Automatic. Alright, it's fine. So alright, yep, that's it. Alright, you can't see it correctly, but I'm about to use a new tool called filter. and you click on filter, and then you search for gradient. And then you click on the gradient, and then that allows you to change the color here as well. Then you see the settings here. These settings, think of these settings as like a more advanced form of like color swatching and like color manipulation in your Photoshop file. But in this case, this is essentially a substance painter file, which makes this also very distinct. I'm going to put this smaller now. So the more control you have, the more it allows you to develop pieces that you want to see in that sense. See, I can make it to a blood stain or blue, or maybe something like this. There we go. And I'm going to do fill, scratches. So it looks like that, right? So the scratches also needs a gradient filtration system too. So you click on this, right? And then click on that. You see how it works like that? Cool. And then, okay, we did this like that. It looks like this now. Scratches are essentially this, so maybe the metal, we could make this into maybe a little bit of blue. There we go. So now that's essentially anything we can use. And if everything's on the bottom, right? See, in Photoshop layers, if everything's on the bottom, that's essentially the first layer. Everything you paint on top becomes newer layers you can use. That's how Photoshop, painting, and overall any software that does layering works in general. It's the same process. So now I'm going to go into, it's not finished yet, but we can still use this in a good way. So I'm going to use letter stylize, and putting it on the top, we'll put this on the top as well. A black mask, what it does, is going to make it all non-seeable. When it's all white on the white mask, that essentially is showcasing what is shown. Hence white is positive and black is negative. And any negative you can't see in this software, just for notes. So click on that, and then I'm going to do what I'm going to do is that I'm going to click on this here, and then I'm going to click on this and press this just like that. There we go. And then we press this here as well. Just like that. And if I want to be a little bit more stylish, I can add this one as well. First, since this is essentially a glass visor, there's a distinct system that you can use as a rare system called emissive. And emissive, in layman terms or in basic terms, it's just glowing. It makes everything glow in that sense. You see? Boom, it glows. So we're going to black mask this, and I'm going to use, just like how it looks like that, I'm going to put that on one of the points here. So I'm going to put that there, and actually I'm going to use this mask here. You see that? Or I can put it here as well. Just like that. And then maybe I could use a texturing thing in that sense. So give me a second. I'm going to, oops, that's not good, but alright, so actually no, I'm going to do that. Alright, so what we can do here is that we can essentially, oh, it doesn't look right anymore. Give me a second. Properties. And here. There we go. I'm actually going to show you what I'm going to use on my tablet. You see this tablet here? I'm going to show you how I'm actually going to do this on the painterly terms. So let me just modify my setup for a bit, and I'm going to essentially put this like that. There we go. Cool. Check this out. I'm going to use this kind of pen, right? And this pen is going to allow me to draw it on my drawing tablet, which I have here. So right now I got to turn this on because it's not working the way it's supposed to. I apologize for that. and then working area, and then I'm going to click on this, and now I should be on the layer I should be able to use. So there's a glass visor, right? So I'm going to check for the setting that's going to choose my brush. In other words, this is essentially your brush settings in Photoshop. Okay, here, and then I'm going to say brush for a certain brush I'm going to use. Just like this, and then I'm going to, stroke capacity, we're going to decrease that. There we go, and minimum size, we're going to put that like that. Size, we're going to put it a little like this, and yeah. We're going to switch up the music, so, alright. Yep, let's see. And there we go. You see how it looks like that? This is me actually using these brush strokes to create like a style in that sense you can use. You see how there's like brush strokes like that I'm using? It teaches me how I can actually use this in the end. And now it looks like this. You see that? And then I erase this, and then slowly I can add more of this in the end. Just like that. Yeah, okay. Well, that's like overall what you can do in terms of like developing this. So, yeah. Thank you for looking at this visual like image. Next time we're going to talk about how to actually create this with more of a variation. So this is the first variation that we have created in that sense. The first variation. The second one, I'll talk more about how you can use other painting and texturing styles to create this in the end. Thank you for viewing, and thank you so much. Catch you later. See ya.